Hi everyone, welcome to Shimna Study Corner. Today, let us discuss the lesson titled From the Diary of Anne Frank from Class 10 First Flight Textbook. If you are watching my channel for the first time, please subscribe. Make sure that you press the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video gets uploaded. So let's move on to the video now. Anneliese Mary Anne Frank is one of the most discussed Jewish victims of the Holocaust. She gained fame posthumously with the publication of The Diary of a Young Girl, in which she documents her life in hiding from 1942 to 1944 during the German occupation of the Netherlands in World War II. It is one of the world's best-known books and has been the basis for several plays and films. Let's move on to the chapter From the Diary of Anne Frank. Writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me, not only because I've never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing and I have an ever greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. In this paragraph, we get to know the answers of three important questions. Why does Anne Frank find it strange to write in a diary? She finds it strange because she had not written anything before and she felt that later on no one, including her, would be interested in her musings. The word musings means thoughts. The next question is, how old is Anne Frank? The answer to this is 13 years. She is 13 years old. Then we get to know the answer of why does she decide to write a diary? She decides to write this diary to get rid of her burdens, and we'll get to know more about what those burdens are as we move on in the chapter. The next part of the chapter goes like this. Paper has more patience than people. I thought of this saying on one of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hands, bored and listless, wondering whether to stay in or go out. I finally stayed where I was, brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience, and since I'm not planning to let anyone else read this stiff-backed notebook grandly referred to as a diary, unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably won't make a bit of difference. Now, I'm back to the point that prompted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. Paper has more patience than people. This is one important quote in this chapter. Why does she say so? She says so because she finds that paper is more tolerant with her compared to the people around her. We also get to know that she is a friendless girl. She is a girl without any friends, and that makes her lonely. The meaning of the word brood in this paragraph is to think deeply about something that makes one unhappy. Now, let's move on to the next paragraph. Let me put it more clearly, since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world. And I'm not. I have loving parents and a 16-year-old sister, and there are about 30 people I can call friends. I have a family, loving aunts, and a good home. No, on the surface, I seem to have everything except my one true friend. Here, she makes it clear to us that when she says that she's alone, she doesn't mean that she's an orphan. She says that she has a family with her parents, a sister, friends, and many others. Then, why does she feel that she's alone? She feels so because she lacks a true friend. Let's continue reading the chapter. All I think about when I'm with my friends is having a good time. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary, everyday things. We don't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately, they are not liable to change. This is why I have started the diary. To enhance the image of this long awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do. But I want the diary to be my friend, and I am going to call this friend Kitty. Here, she tells the readers how she feels about her friends. She says that she has a lot of friends, but she finds it very difficult to confide in them. She finds it difficult to speak openly to them and realizes that she can't speak to them anything else other than the ordinary everyday matters. She holds herself responsible for this condition. She strongly believes that this condition was never going to change. Thus, she considers her diary as her best friend and names it as Kitty. Let's move to the next part. Since no one would understand a word of my stories to Kitty, if I were to plunge right in, I would better provide a brief sketch of my life, much as I dislike doing so. So, here we know that she doesn't like describing about her life. So, from that, it's clear that she is not very happy with her life and things going on in her life. Then she says, my father, the most adorable father I have ever seen, didn't marry my mother until he was 36 and she was 25. So we get to know that Otto Frank and Edith Frank, Anne's father and mother, got married when her father was 36 and her mother was just 25. My sister Margot was born on 12th June 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4. My father immigrated to Holland in 1933. My mother, Edith Hollander Frank, went with him to Holland in September, while Margot and I were sent to Aachen to stay with our grandmother. Margot went to Holland in December, and I followed in February when I was plunked down on the table as a birthday present for Margot. So here we get to know how their family happened to move to Holland. She says that her father immigrated to Holland in 1933. After that, her mother followed him in September of the same year. So when the parents were not there, both the children, Margot and Anne Frank, were sent to a place called Aachen, where they had their grandmother and they lived with their grandmother for some time. After that, Margot went to Holland in the month of December, and Anne followed them to Holland in the month of February. So here we get an idea as to how their family moved into Holland. They did not move as the family as a whole, but one by one they went to Holland. We get the idea of Margot's birth also over here. She was born in Frankfurt in Germany in the year of 1926. And Anne's birthday was on 12th June 1929. That means 3 years after Margot's birth. Moving on to the next part, I started right away at the Montessori nursery school. I stayed there until I was 6, at which time I started in the first form. In the sixth form, my teacher was Mrs. Cuperis, the headmistress. At the end of the year, we were both in tears as we said a heartbreaking farewell. So here Anne Frank talks about her schooling. We have already seen that the girl is born in 1929 and she moves to Holland in 1933. That means she is just 4 years old when she goes to Holland. So she goes once she is in Holland, she goes to the Montessori nursery school. So she goes to this school until she was 6 years old. That means for 2 years she goes to this nursery school. And when once she was 6 years old, she starts her first form. First form here means class 1 or grade 1. And then she continues till 6th standard or class 6 in the same school. And when she was in class 6, she had a teacher and her name was Mrs. Cuperis. She was also the headmistress of the school. Anne Frank says that she shared a very strong bond with her teacher, that after class 6, when she had to leave the school, they had to bid a heartbreaking farewell. So it was very difficult for them to part ways. Next part goes like this. In the summer of 1941, Grandma fell ill and had to have an operation, so my birthday passed with little celebration. Grandma died in January 1942. No one knows how often I think of her and still love her. This birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the other, and Grandma's candle was lit along with the rest. The four of us are still doing well, and that brings me to the present date of 20th June 1942 and the solemn dedication of my diary. So here we get to know that her grandmother, with whom she was living in HL, fell ill in 1941 and she had to have an operation. This grandmother died the next year, that is in 1942, January, she died. So, as her grandmother was ill in the year of 1941, her birthday was not celebrated. She says that she still thinks of her grandmother and she still loves her even after the grandmother's death, and that shows how much connected she feels towards her grandmother. Now, we have already seen that in the year of 1941, her birthday was not celebrated due to the illness of grandmother. So, this birthday, that means the birthday of 1942, was intended to make up for the other. It was a compensation. As the other one was not celebrated, it was meant as a compensation for the lost birthday. So she says that her grandmother's candle was lit along with the rest. That was, a candle was lit in the remembrance of her grandmother also. And then she comes to the present date. The present date is 20th June 1942, and she mentions that it is on this date that she has started writing her diary. So this date is important. 20th June 1942 is important because that is the date on which she starts writing her diary. With this, we come to an end of the first part of this chapter. Hope this video has been helpful to all of you. Let me know of your suggestions in the comment box below. Thank you for watching. For more interesting videos, subscribe Shimna Study Corner. See you in the next video. Bye bye.